The president of the Palestinian Authority is urging Hamas to speed up an exchange of captives held in Gaza for prisoners in Israeli jails. Mahmoud Abbas said it would spare Palestinians from more devastating attacks and a possible Israeli ground offensive in Rafah. Charles Stratford is live for us in Ramallah. So, Charles, how are these comments being interpreted?
I'll just read you a little bit more of the statement, if you wouldn't mind, Sammy, because it's quite telling. This was a statement released on Rafah, which is the official Palestinian Authority news agency. Abbas went on to say, "We hold everybody responsible for placing obstacles from any party to disrupt the deal. It is time for everybody to bear responsibility." Certainly, according to analysts that we've been speaking to here, they're saying that ultimately this shows just how little influence that President Abbas has in affecting real change. As these talks, as this push, this desperate push certainly by the US for some sort of ceasefire and a potential prisoner for captive exchange, these talks go on. Up until now, Abbas has been relatively quiet, certainly in any sort of criticism of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, even since the initial attacks. He has, of course, been deeply critical of Israel and its behaviour in Gaza and here in the occupied West Bank, and he's been critical of the international community. But this is almost being seen as I say, a bit of a veiled attack on Hamas. And one of the reasons why analysts are saying he has been so quiet up until now is because of how deeply unpopular he is as the Palestinian leader here. A very telling opinion poll that was carried out in recent weeks, some really shocking statistics. People asked, both here in the occupied West Bank and Gaza, what future they saw for Mr. Abbas. More than 90% of those asked in Gaza and more than 80% of those asked in, more than 90% of those asked in the West Bank and more than 80% of those asked in Gaza said they wanted Abbas to resign. Of course, Abbas and the PA are seen as potentially having a leading role in the future of Gaza, both politically and in terms of its reconstruction. Certainly, that's being supported by the international community and most notably, as you can imagine, the Americans. They want the PA to have a big role, but there's also been a lot of pressure on the PA by the US for reforms of the Palestinian Authority in the last couple of weeks. And we've heard intimations, statements made by certain PA officials saying that they are open to these reforms. But a lot of it hangs on as to whether those reforms would actually include the resignation or the standing down of President Abbas himself, who, as I say, certainly amongst the Palestinian people, both here and in Gaza, and that's despite the level of destruction and suffering that the Gazans have been obviously enduring now for 4 months because of Israel's war. Despite that, he's seen as being so deeply unpopular, and this, certainly according to analysts, is a sign that, frankly, he's saying there's so little I can do now, it's over to you.
All right, thanks so much, Charles Stratford there. Well, Jamal Nazzal is a spokesman for the Fatah Movement and member of the Revolutionary Council. He joins us now live from Dusseldorf. Good to have you with us. So first of all, the Palestinian president took a very unusual step of calling on Hamas to complete a prisoner swap deal. Why did he make that call publicly?
Well, first, I have to thank you for the first interview you conduct with the Fatah spokesman 4 months into the war. I thought the war will end before we get to speak anything on Al Jazeera. I also appreciate the Al Jazeera English coverage of the entire situation. And now you want me to defend a certain position which is so easy to defend. President Abbas is so careful. He is so and he has to take care of his constituency. The people he is speaking about are the people who elected him, the people of Gaza. He is responsible for them. He doesn't want any obstacles to be put into the ways of reaching a ceasefire. We want to see a ceasefire now, as quickly as possible, not to forget that Ramadan is approaching.
Okay. I'm still not clear, though, on the point of why he made this call publicly. And by the way, just to correct you on something, on the 11th of December, we spoke to a Fatah official. But coming back to the point which I was asking you about, why, I mean, Fatah surely has communication channels with Hamas. Why the public nature of this call?
Because he has every right to do this. He has a moral authority and a constitutional authority, regardless of the poll that you cited, a poll which was taken 3 months ago. If you take a poll today, you will see on whose side the people stand. But that doesn't matter at all. What we care about is the well-being of our people who are being pushed into a second Nakba, and they are under an existential threat. Why publicly? Because he has the right and the duty to do so. That's why he did it.
I'm not sure what poll you're referring to. I haven't cited any poll. Let's move on, though, with the question. I'm not sure it's very clear the public nature of that call. But in his statement, Mahmoud Abbas said Hamas should complete this prisoner swap to avoid a 1948-style catastrophe, to avoid an occupation attack on Rafah. Does the PA, though, really believe, do you think that a prisoner swap deal would prompt the Israelis really to give up an attack on Rafah, to give up on any plans to try and displace Palestinians further and end the war?
Just to set things right, he didn't specifically call on Hamas to do that. He wants a ceasefire to be reached. He wants a prisoner swap to take place, also because the families of the prisoners are waiting. The Palestinian people are suffering, facing starvation, diseases, and lethal attacks by Israel. If you are the elected president of a people, you have every right to speak out and call on everyone who is delaying. And we think that Israel is using delaying tactics. The onus is on Israel. The burden of proof is on Israel. Israel has to deliver, and it should stop using all these excuses which we do not believe in. It's in Israel's hand, and also all the parties concerned who are negotiating have to reach an agreement so that our people can get into the month of Ramadan in peace.
Has the Palestinian Authority, let me turn the question around, what has the Palestinian Authority been able to do to free some of these Palestinian prisoners who've been in Israeli jails for many years, in some cases, in administrative detention, without trial, without charge, without conviction?
Well, the last round of negotiations that took place between the PLO and Israel was on the auspices of Obama. Took place in Jordan. Israel had to release 280 prisoners. Now, in the course of the negotiating time since Oslo, between Oslo and the Second Intifada, Israel had to release 13,000 Palestinian prisoners. That costed us a drop of ink from the pen from which these accords were signed. Of course, there are ways to release the prisoners. We want the prisoners to be released right now. It's Israel that has kidnapped over 7,000
but the prisoners
Palestinians
haven't been
since
released,
the start
right?
of the 7th of October.
That agreement you're referring to.
They have to be released.
They have to, but they haven't. There's so many prisoners. In fact, Israel is arresting more and more Palestinians. Right. The criticism for the PA is that it is a lot of Palestinians feel it's very ineffective in protecting Palestinians.
The largest prisoner swap ever took place between Fatah and Israel, and we released 4,000 Palestinian prisoners for one Palestinian prisoner. That is a long time ago. But through negotiations also, the PLO managed to get thousands and thousands of Palestinian prisoners from Israeli detention. Also, we have to see an end to this, regardless of who stands how to which position. The time is ticking. We are all under pressure. The people are suffering. And yes, Israel had to release so many prisoners through negotiations. But don't forget, ever after the start of the 7th of October, Israel kidnapped 7,000 Palestinians. 7,000 Palestinians more than we had prior to the 7th of October.
But
so things are changing.
Isn't that precisely the point, though? Again, to my question, a lot of Palestinians ask, what is the Palestinian Authority doing to protect Palestinians in the West Bank who are coming under attacks from settlers as well as under occupation forces, of course? What is the Palestinian security apparatus doing? Is it in your opinion, proving very effective in protecting Palestinians right now?
Heard about the term prevention. Sometimes you can reach your objective by refraining from certain actions instead of resorting to certain actions. So, yes, the Palestinian Authority, which is the Palestinian voice legitimately heard and recognized throughout the world, we stand on the world arena and the world states listen to us. And of course, we can put pressure on Israel, on the International Court of Justice, the ICC also. As a member state, Palestine is able to bring Israel to justice, and the international community listens to this voice. And of course, your previous commentator cited a certain poll that calls for the resignation of Abbas, but he is the elected president, the embodiment of the Palestinian legitimacy. Nobody can call in the name of reforms to remove an elected president.
Of course, if he's citing polls, that would be a matter of public opinion, which, anyway, that's perhaps a discussion for another day in terms of the popularity of Mahmoud Abbas and the delay in elections and so on. Jamal Nazzal, thank you very much for coming and sharing your perspective.